regular City Council meeting for May 28, 2019. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, let the roll call show everyone is present. And we'll move on to the approval of City Council minutes, May 13th, 2019.
I'll move the minutes. I have a correction.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
On page 6, Lisa, last partial sentence at the bottom of the page there, it says, no correction there. My apologies. My mistake. I'm good. Sorry, Glenn.
Well, that's all right.
I'll second the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the City Council special meeting minutes, May 22nd, 2019.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We have no bills this evening, so we'll move on to the approval of this evening's agenda.
I'll move the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. At this point this evening, we will be reading a couple proclamations. We'll start with celebrating the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background across America have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of the United States in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas the women of this nation initiated the most significant women's movement in history, the need for women's suffrage, and whereas, despite the strong opposition, the inspiration and determination of women nationwide brought about the extraordinary accomplishment, the right for women to vote. And whereas on June 10th, 1919, Michigan women cast their vote when Michigan voters ratified the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And whereas the state of Michigan was the second state to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And whereas on August 26th, 1920, voters across the nation secured the right for women to vote when the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States was ratified, empowering American women and declaring for the first time that they, like men, deserve all rights and responsibilities of citizenship, stating, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state or account of sex." And whereas August 26, 2020 will mark the 100th anniversary of the passage of the national suffrage movement, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guaranteeing women the right to vote. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of South Lyon remembers and celebrates the historic women who fought for their right to vote and recognizes the courage and inspiration of these bold women to change the course of history. Be it further resolved that the City of South Lyon will fly the 19th Amendment victory flag June 10th, 2019 through June 14th, 2019 to commemorate the state of Michigan ratifying the 19th Amendment, and August 24th, 2020 through August 28th, 2020 to commemorate the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. We also have a proclamation on National Gun Violence Awareness Day. This proclamation declares that the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in South Lyon, Michigan, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. whereas every day 100-plus Americans are killed by gun violence, and on the average there are nearly 13,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other high-income countries, and whereas protecting safety in the communities they serve is mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas by wearing orange on June 7th, 2019, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And now therefore, be it resolved, I, Daniel L. Pelchat, Mayor of South Lyon, County of Oakland, State of Michigan, do hereby proclaim Friday, June 7th, 2019 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of South Lyon. I encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to value human lives. And I believe we have someone here. Thank you. At this time, we will open the floor for our public hearing on the annual budget for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. If anyone has anything in regards to the budget, the floor is open. All right. We will close the public hearing for the annual budget for fiscal year 2019 through 2020. At this time, we're going to open the floor for public comment. Just a reminder on the rules of conduct for public comment at council meetings. Members of the public may speak at a council meeting upon recognition by the mayor. Public comment may only occur during periods designated on the agenda for public comment or a public hearing. A person may speak for up to 2 minutes during each of the 2 public comment periods on agenda items or non-agenda items. Waivers of the time requirement may only be granted in the discretion of the mayor, and waivers to speak at a time other than a designated comment period may only be granted by the council. Any person wishing to make a presentation longer than 2 minutes or requiring audiovisual equipment is asked to contact the city clerk requesting to appear on a future agenda. A person may only address council from the podium. Only one person may occupy the podium at a time. All remarks are to be directed to the mayor and council. Speakers are not to engage in direct dialogue with other meeting attendees. Any person who violates the rules of conduct, disturbs the peace at the meeting, and/or interferes with the meeting may be warned, ordered to be seated, removed, and/or ticketed. This summarizes Council Resolution 04-18. Complete rules, including guidelines for considering waivers, are available in the council chambers and from the city clerk. At this time, if anyone would like to come up and speak, please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Asher. I live at 6804 Harvest Court, South Lyon, Michigan. I'm a senior at South Lyon East High School, and I am a co-founder and co-leader of the South Lyon Students Demand Action. On behalf of the Oakland-Macomb County Moms Demand Action and South Lyon Students Demand Action, I'd like to thank Mayor Pelchat and the council for their support in declaring June 7th as Wear Orange Day in honor of National Gun Violence Awareness Day. In 2013, 15-year-old Hadia Pendleton was shot and killed in Chicago in an accidental casualty of gang violence. Refusing to stay silent about her death and the gun deaths of so many, her friends started this national holiday to commemorate her life and raise awareness. Every day in America, 100 people are killed with guns, and guns are the second leading cause of death for American children and teens. Since the Columbine High School shooting in 1999, 26,000 American teenagers have been murdered by gun violence. Although heavily politicized in the modern-day news cycle, this is clearly not a left or right issue. This is a life or death issue. Wear Orange Day is an opportunity for all of us to honor the lives cut short due to gun violence and raise awareness in hopes of ending America's gun crisis. The Wear Orange campaign shows how each and every one of us can make a difference by raising awareness, and we are extremely thankful to the mayor and council for helping South Lyon be able to recognize victims on this important National Day of Remembrance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erin Cottingim, 601 South Lafayette. First, I want to praise this group of young folks for taking a stand together, for showing that they want to change. And thank you to our city government for listening. The visual of unity is so important. People need to see how many people want to make a change to help prevent gun violence. People around the world are coming together with a simple message: there's more we can do to end gun violence. I'm standing here today to join that movement and ask this council to consider adding an ordinance that prohibits guns in our schools, including open carry, unless held by a trained officer. Many people, including myself, presume that our schools already prohibit guns in school property. I learned a few years ago that I was wrong, and let me tell you how. On my daughter's last day of kindergarten at Sarah Elementary, as everyone bustled around, happy for school to be over and summer to finally begin, there was an angry man in the school with a gun. He was upset that parents were parking on his lawn. He carried a gun on a holster out in the open. Our summer, and the summer of our friends, some of our neighbors, could have been tragically different with one wrong move, one simple mistake, in 1 second's time. Thankfully, everyone was okay. Nothing beyond intimidation and fear came from these actions. I was shaken to the core with the news that there was a man with a gun in my daughter's school. Already, our children have to learn how to hide from a man just like this one. We teach our children to turn off the lights, to stay quiet, to hide, starting at 3 years old. My children don't know any other way. When we were kids, we learned how to stay safe during storms. We knew the police would keep us safe from any bad people. Today, that is not what our youth knows. The most shocking part to this story was that angry man in that school was within his rights in this city and this state. State law said that he could be in that school with a gun because he had a proper permit to do so. Local laws and ordinances did not, and as I understand, still do not disagree. I'm asking our city to do more to put an ordinance in place prohibiting all guns from school property unless held by a trained officer. Our city is familiar with ordinances. They know how to put an ordinance into place that adds to state laws for the good of our people. Our city can step ahead of the times. Our city doesn't have to be a headline for senseless tragedies, but instead can make a headline for sensible change. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Amber King, 791 Westbrook. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, if you don't know already, this Sunday on June 2nd is the celebration at our library. They're starting their summer reading program, and it's the Children's Expansion grand opening. The ribbon cutting will be at 1 p.m., and there's going to be fun for the whole family, so we hope to see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Council. Ryan Cottingham, 601 South Lafayette. I just wanted to applaud these students for doing what they did to get this proclamation made. I think it's great, and please don't stop there. Keep going. Keep engaging with government. I want to applaud Council for also doing both proclamations, especially the gun control, the gun recognition proclamation. And please don't stop there. Listen to what the public is trying to say, and let's be proactive. So important. We all have kids in the schools, and it's please just listen to what they're trying to say. On another topic, I did want to talk about the business survey. I wasn't going to bring it up with all this, but I think I will. I just wanted to stress I can't believe that survey that many of you were opposed to last council meeting was passed out to businesses. I don't understand it. It seemed like this was something that was drafted to be worked on amongst you all, and then I hear from other business owners in town that the survey has been issued and passed out, and everyone in the downtown district received this survey. So I just wanted to, on top of my comments last week when I was very pleased in seeing that this was moving forward, come back up and really speak my feelings now. And I'm quite, I don't understand it, and I hope there's a plan behind it. It just doesn't seem like there is one. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will close public comment, and we'll move on to our discussion of the downtown this evening. Mr. Donahue.
All right. I'm going to just add a couple things in addition to the report that you receive from Paul every week. If there's any questions on that, feel free to ask. A couple items. The farmers market sign, just to kind of give you an update. I think I might have mentioned we're going to a third panel. That'll be it, because we have 36 participants, and rather than walling off the whole farmers market. So we're excited that we have 36 sponsors that stepped up. And we're going to change it out to give each individual sponsor more visibility. So over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to change out those signs so they're a lot more visible. Our very first banner over the road will be coming up in late June. The Motorfest will be the test case for the first banner. The hardware, we finally found, it was a very difficult search to find the hardware. Well, it was easy to find the hardware, but you had to buy cases of bolts that we would never, ever use again. So we found an individual company where we could order maybe 10, and we only need 4, not 400. So the hardware will be ordered. DPW will take care of it. It's going to be a team effort with DPW, police, and fire to put those up the week of June 10th. So we're excited about that. The first of the new trash cans, we're replacing all the trash cans. The DDA, at its goals and objectives meeting, agreed to fund new trash cans for downtown. So by Diane's Dolls on East Lake and in front of Grand Trunk are the first of the 2 new trash cans. They're large 32-gallon cans. All of the trash cans on the light poles will be removed. We're finding out with more people downtown, there's a lot more trash. So we want to accommodate that, but those small cans were rotting out. They're rusting out. So take a look. They'll come in 4 styles, but they all are pretty much in the same style family. They're the recycled material, sustainable art, part of our new public art program for downtown, working with the Cultural Arts Commission. So take a peek, and we're going to get the rest of them. There are 16 coming out in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to get the first 10 that are at DPW out tomorrow. Also, the flowers. We had an issue with flowers really for the last 3 to 4 years. It seemed to be in August. Our flowers were looking pretty rough when everybody else's flowers looked great. So what was going on? So we interviewed the green houses, and we decided we're going to go with Donahue Farms as our new supplier. And Duke Donahue, the owner, is going to personally instruct DPW staff on how and when to properly fertilize, when to water, and we're excited. We're excited that we're going to have higher quality flowers. We're also adding, the DDA agreed to fund, in addition to the 80 that are on 40 different poles, because there's 2 on 40 different poles. In addition to those 80, we're going at the 4 corners and also at Lake and, on East Lake and Wells Street. We're going with sidewalk flower pots, 18 inches wide, 2 feet high. And we just want to add a lot more color and get this flower aspect solved and make our downtown sparkle even more like the other downtowns. That's really all I have, unless you have questions on anything else.
Does anyone have anything for Bob tonight? Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Bob, well, I hope you can solve the flower problem, but, you know, the real cause of the flowers dying is there's never any dirt in the buckets that the flowers' roots are in, and when air hits roots, it just kills them, dries them out faster, and you know, they don't survive, no matter how much watering you do. And some of them just aren't suited to the reflection off the cement of when it reaches 100 degrees or close to 100 degrees. It just cooks them, and you know, other flowers that are on the ground remain cooler and they survive. You know, that's part of the problem. Okay.
I think we've got a solution. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, and then in August, if they're looking great, then we must have solved the problem. But it's obviously, I don't think dirt is the problem. We've talked to the experts, and it's continuing to fertilize them. What happened last 3 or 4 years is we did not continue to fertilize. We kept watering, but we were taking all the nutrients out. And so we are learning how to properly fertilize and water, and hopefully that'll work.
I wish them the best.
Absolutely. But thank you.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Being the master gardener that I am, I just had to add my 2 cents to this. Some of what he is saying has a little bit of merit because every time you water, you lose a little bit of soil through the watering. But the process is called leaching, and what is happening is that when you water, you leach all the nutrients out. It comes out with the water. So that's why you have to constantly fertilize every 2 weeks so that you are replenishing back in the nutrients that you are washing out. It's a leaching problem is basically what it is. But the other thing is too is that in some of the prior cases that the wrong kind of plants were just put up that don't tolerate. You got to remember you have a lot of exhaust and vehicles running on that road. You have the heat that is coming up from the pavement, from the cement, which is making that an eco environment that is very, very, very hot. So, and there were some years where the plants that were in those baskets just weren't the correct plant for what you were trying to achieve. So, but Donahue's got a good reputation. So,
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Bob, in light of the comments made by Mr. Cottingem, and I'm sorry he's not here to hear it, how about if you give us an update on where the survey stands? You already know my position on it based on the initial review of it.
Sure.
And I think you know my position on it based on a subsequent review of activities that have taken place. So how about if you tell us what the process is going forward to ensure that we're going to get the information that was requested by the council and that it isn't just a DDA initiative. So for the benefit of the audience, the members here in the audience, the residents of the city, and Mr. Cottingem, who is no longer present, what's the process going forward?
Well, from day one, it was always intended to be all 350-plus businesses throughout the city. The goal is to make sure that we're providing adequate service. The goal is to improve service, if we can, always. That should always be our goal. Even as if we were to be ranked #1 best business-friendly community, I would say we still need to improve, because why should we ever stop? I think the purpose is a little different than the goal. The purpose is to meet the business needs and the city's needs. And that was a draft. Certainly, some of that demographic information, that's why hearing from all the council is absolutely important. Everybody, I mean, we're really open to all that. But there are 2 needs. The business needs are, is the city providing the services they need? And questions will relate to that. The city's needs for certain business types, it kind of supports the business registration program that the fire department has. And we're not going to be asking specific business types. The business registration will do that. The survey is just going to ask office, service, retail, restaurant, or other. But we're not, if you said toys, I guess we're going to know who that is. Or if we're going to say video games, we know who that is. So we're just going to keep it to business type, four categories. But, an example of wanting to know how many employees, because we can react to parking planning. It helps us in event planning. Where do the employees park? We know there's some businesses upset with events. We want to really help businesses. And so knowing how many employees, I think it's a valid thing. And we already are in discussions with new development and more restaurants, working with city manager and the police chief on parking. We'll be presenting to you in the next few weeks ways to accommodate parking for employees as well as the visitors. Because I'm a staunch advocate that we have to provide close, safe parking for employees as well as customers. And I think we can do both. Because I think within a 3-minute walk, all of our 350-plus spaces are absolutely within a 3 to 4 minute walk. So that's a good thing. So I think it's education and accommodating the needs of the business is number one on our agenda.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Okay, Bob, you didn't answer the question. I asked, what is the process for developing the survey? Okay. What I heard is we passed it out to the DDA. What I saw was we passed it out to another group of DDA participants.
Okay, I can give you more of an update on that.
My question to you is, what is the process
Sure.
of developing and identifying the questions on the survey
Sure,
to
I'm-
make sure that
I'm
we're going to
just
get
about
the
to get to that.
feedback from the businesses in the community so we know what's working and what isn't working?
All right.
Okay, what are the next
So
steps?
the process is that was a first draft, and I mentioned that I'm looking forward to input by all council. I'm looking forward to continued input by all of the DDA. As you know, we have a monthly business and property owners meeting. I thought it was a good opportunity to get some more input. If anybody contacts us, if the council would like us to give it to anybody individually, sure. I mean, it's just a draft. One thing we don't want to do is, because it would be ungodly to handle, is give a draft to all 350 businesses for input. That would be ludicrous, in my opinion. So what we're trying to do is get a lot of input and look at how these have been done nationally. We have some talent in this city that have residents that have done other surveys. I was just approached by a young woman tonight who said, I've done surveys professionally. So I think this is a wonderful thing. We'll distill it down, looking at the best surveys, model ourselves, and meet the needs of business in the city. And right there. So the process is after the input. I would say by the end of the summer, early fall, find the best way to design it, and then the best way to distribute it. Because there's a lot going on in the summer with activities, and right now I'd say if we're going to do this right, the soonest it could be done would be the end of the summer or early fall. And I think we're just fine. I don't think the world will change if we do it right and get it out, get it done properly, and get it out at the end of the summer or early fall. So that's the process as I see it right now.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
With all due respect, that's not really a plan. That's kind of a hope. I'm not hearing clear, concise steps of what's going to take place, who the input is coming from, other than you're hoping for input from the council members, and you already have that from some. Not sure who hasn't
I
provided.
just said who it
Let me
was.
just finish, please. Okay. So I'm looking for, so far what I've seen is input has been solicited from the nucleus of the DDA. I haven't heard anything about going out to the other businesses and soliciting input from them. I'm not really sure why we're soliciting input from the businesses first. We know what the questions are we need to ask, okay? Once we have those clearly identified and documented, then we could look for feedback on their receptivity to that survey. So again, I don't have a real comfortable feeling that there really is a plan. It's something obviously that you and Paul will work out. But originally when we talked about this, that was at the last meeting, said that we would have the survey within 2 to 3 weeks.
A draft.
Whatever, okay. And now it's going to be the end of the summer, and I certainly don't want to do things prematurely just for the sake of getting things done. But I certainly want to have a quality product, and to do that, somebody has to give clear and concise thought on what the process is to get from A to B. It's not coming across that that's been done yet.
I'll give you the process again. And it's as clear as we know it at this point, is to start out with a draft, to deliver it as I pledged to the council person that brought it up within 4 weeks. That was done. That draft is being shared with the city council. I think it's important that all council weigh in, not just one or two. We're waiting. I've heard from two.
Is there a deadline for the response, Bobby? I mean, we could wait.
Okay, we'll set a
Infinitum.
deadline, so we'll come up with a deadline. Good
Okay.
point. I would also like to be very open. I agree. If anybody else wants to give us input, then we need a period of time for other people to give us input. That's why Council Parisian suggested we give it to a business person. Great. Anybody else wants us to give it to somebody? Great. But we're not going to wholesale deliver it to all 350. More input is great. I agree we'll establish a deadline and move forward. It needs to have a graphic presentation, the delivery of what's the best media to deliver it, and we'll decide on that. So I think right now the process is wide open. We'll establish a date. I'll get with the city manager, and then after that date, we'll have another draft, and we'll come up with the final process. Other than a plan, I really don't know if plan is appropriate. That's the plan we have. I've never seen a plan to develop a survey other than looking at all the best surveys. Our plan is to look at the best surveys in the United States, Oakland County, and Michigan, and that's what we've done. And now we're presenting them to you.
Okay, so when I say we're looking for a plan, I'm looking for, you have a set of activities that occur by a certain milestone. And at that milestone, you determine whether or not those activities have taken place. If they haven't taken place, what's the corrective action to bring this back on schedule to meet that target deadline in 3 to 4 months? And if you don't have a plan and you don't have the timing, there is no plan, Bob. So that's what I'm looking for, is to say, you've asked for input from the council. What's the deadline? Because we could wait forever for that. There needs to be a cutoff point if you're going to be able to meet that deadline. And you need to know well in advance that you're not going to meet that target deadline because things aren't happening by those interim deadlines. That's the type of plan I'm looking for.
Fine, that's wonderful. I gave you my verbal plan. We'll put it in writing, and we'll have all the dates approved by the city manager as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Parisian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bob, thank you. Please don't be mistaken. We are very appreciative of the fact that this ball is rolling, and that's the most important thing. Getting the feedback is by far the priority to understand where we are and where we need to be and how we can improve. With that being said, I do agree with Councilmember Kennedy, establishing deadlines. So if I understand this correctly, we're establishing a deadline for council to provide their feedback, and then we'll get a draft. But then we're going to establish a second deadline, which is for the first draft to be distributed or finalized. So how many deadlines do we have? We have one deadline to get all the feedback, or
Well,
just
I think
council's?
a timeline of to show the dates along the timeline.
So would it be fair to say by Friday we can get a deadline for when council needs to get their feedback in?
I would say that would be impossible because I'll be out of I'll be out of Oakland County. I'll be at a conference. I would say with next week.
Okay,
By the
that's
end of
fair,
next week?
absolutely. That's absolutely reasonable. So we'll get that deadline when council needs to provide their feedback. But what about the businesses, or should we lump that all together?
I think what we'll do is we'll set a timeline up. I'll share that with the city manager, since I do work for the city manager, and
course.
let him communicate with you.
Absolutely.
And I will give my advice on a timeline. Paul is a rational person who will decide on a reasonable timeline and then submit it for you folks. See what you think.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Kivel.
I just want to make sure that we're not so concerned about getting things buttoned down and like everything is produced. You plan and then formulate, and then it's like this rigid kind of construct. There's going to be I think you can glean an awful lot of information by questions that don't necessarily appear to be right to the nugget that you're asking. And it only matters if you get some responses from the businesses anyway. So, I mean, they can't be too far flung to be productive. But I don't think that everything has to be overly regimented to still be constructive. So I just don't want us to end up turning this into something where we only get 4 kernels of information that represent something worthy. That's all.
We'll do the best we possibly can in a reasonable amount of time, and the goal is always to do the best.
Councilmember Friesian, go ahead.
I forgot to. Sorry, I'm forgetting a lot these days. So if we need to create a work group, if you think if that would behoove us and help us along, I would be happy to facilitate or be a part of that, whatever you think is best to assist, because like I said, you are doing a great job and we're appreciative of the work that you are doing, and we don't want to rush through this. I think it's important to take our time and do this the right way, and I'm hoping that we can maybe implement this every year and have something that goes out so we can get yearly feedback or feedback every 6 months, whatever it might be, whatever businesses do in general to get the feedback for marketing purposes. I consider this the same. So if a working group would be beneficial, that's a
Defer
thought.
to the city manager on that.
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Mayor, we've I just want to make sure everybody knows that we did not send or not give this out to every single business in the DDA. Bob had presented something and said, we have a business group that's coming up at the end of the month. I'm looking at sending something to some of these businesses to try to get some preliminary feedback, provide a little bit of a focus group at this business DDA meeting that we have, see if people read this, see if they can provide a little bit of feedback, make some comment at that particular meeting. It was really focused right away on what council wanted to have, because what we didn't want to have is to send out a survey of what should be on the survey. We really just wanted to get some feedback. Do you feel comfortable with some of these questions? Are you okay with this? What would you like to provide, information you'd like to provide the city? Because we also have some things that we wanted to have. And Bob and I have had additional meetings on this because there are certain things that we would like to acquire knowledge to help us plan for the future. We talk about parking, we talk about businesses, we talk about how we can help, how we can facilitate things at City Hall, how we can provide better services, what works in other communities that you've observed and things like that. But I think the timeline is a good idea, and I think looking at this, by the end of next week, so you have 2 weeks' time for council to be able to provide their comments. Council provides comments. We start to put some information down. We gather the comments from the other businesses that said, hey, we'd like to provide this, or have you thought about adding this question? We put this together, and then by sometime in the end of June, early July, we provide that, again, a rough draft of a survey, give it to council, see if everybody thinks we're on the right track. We make those finer modifications, and then we get ready to send it out. And we want to make sure that we do put it in a proper format to get feedback. The issue is that when you start to request information from businesses about what they think should be in something, if you do not use or do not do what they had asked and what they provided you, they may feel slighted and say, why did you ask me if you didn't put in the questions that I told you? So if you ask too many people will say, well, how come my question was in there and how come somebody else's weren't? So that's what a good focus group or a good control group would potentially help with something like that. And I think we will move forward with that. And I'll work with Bob with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Councilmember Kibble?
Just as a comment on that last thing that you brought up, Paul, I mean, you might be right. They might not see their specific language in there, but as long as whatever their concerns are attended in some other part of the survey, I mean, because some things kind of drift from, a hard edge to something that's more conceptual. So
I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could, as long as we can justify that we didn't lose sight of what their comment was, I think that we'd be all right.
I'll say something.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Bob, I applaud your efforts on this, and I'm got to find time to talk with you more. But realistically, if we can get 20% from the point we are right now in the downtown action, okay, and that translates into hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital investment by private business owners that want to improve their facilities. We've already done so quite a bit, okay, in the last year. We need to keep going, okay? But from this point on, if we can get 20% more improvement, I'd call it a victory for the town, myself. Generally speaking, that's it.
Anyone else with anything for Bob? Councilmember Walton, go ahead.
Thank you. Bob, the group that you already have getting together, doing the business, I think you said
That was just a small segment.
right.
Because I wanted to start getting feedback right away. That was just the first step. That was called the Downtown Business and Property Owners.
Thank
They
you.
meet once a month.
So will they be part of this work group? It sounds like you've already got a work group is
I
what I
think-
guess I'm getting at.
Actually, we don't, because I think broad representation, if there is a work group, I think we need broader representation.
So maybe just start with them and add some people into it?
Or get one or two of them, and then one or two of others too. So yeah, I think a good spread. Paul and I will talk about the work group, and so it's broad representation for all businesses. Industry, small businesses, service, retail, those components that we said, retail, restaurant.
And we are not focusing on just the DDA, it's all of the businesses.
No, the DDA has 100, about 120 businesses. The citywide, there are about 300.
Perfect, thank you.
The goal is to get the final product in everybody's hand.
Okay.
I just got one thing I was going to add. If it was Miss King from the Cable Commission that offered her help, I would highly encourage you to take her up on that. She put together a couple great surveys for us as we were just starting out, and it helped us immensely with projects in regards to the Cable Commission.
Sounds like she's going to get an invite to the working.
I think I'll second that.
So, thanks, Bob.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
At this time tonight, we will move forward to old business number 1, budget. Consider approval of millage rate resolution. Paul?
All of you received the proposed 2019-20 budget document. At tonight's meeting, we're going to hold a public hearing, which we just did, and after that public hearing, you'll consider the approval of the millage rate resolution and to consider the approval of the 2019-2020 budget resolution. The materials that you have within your packet are both resolutions. The course of action tonight, we held a public hearing, and then under 2 separate motions, approve or not approve the millage rate resolution and the budget resolution. It is my recommendation that we did have the public hearing and we held it, and to adopt the millage rate resolution and the annual budget resolution. The first document you do see does identify the millage rates as identified, as well as the base taxable values with the city and the spread of the millage. And it does describe as far as the information that is contained within the budget. So that would be the first item that which you would need to adopt. The second one, the draft resolution, does support and does discuss the individual accounts, does discuss the total expenditures within the city. I do want to remind City Council that included within this are also the wages of employees. Some of them are specified based upon the union contracts within the city. The other wages that are not specified are for their other employees, which does include the city manager and does identify a 3% wage increase for those employees. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. We do have additional staff here to answer questions if you have questions regarding specific budgets and particular departments.
I got a question.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead and get us started.
Several. Do we vote on these separately, like number 1 up for motion and then number 2 up for motion
correct.
also?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. But we just had one sheet here that says budget, old business items 1 and 2. And,
The first sheet is the explanation, and the second 2 would be would be a resolution, and the third sheet would be the other
okay,
resolution.
all right, okay.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Paul, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting. I'm going to say it again. I think you and the entire staff have done a great job in putting the budget together. Okay, it addresses a number of the issues that have been neglected for a few years. I'm glad to see that we're going to address them. They're not easy things to accomplish. They're not glamorous. They're not flashy, but they need to be taken care of if the city is going to continue to provide safe and reliable services to its residents and its businesses. So the budget does that. It's a great step in the right direction, and I applaud you and the efforts of the various department heads and the administrative staff that worked on this.
Well, I appreciate that. The staff did spend countless hours on it. The department heads worked with each one of their departments, discussed items that were needs and wants within the departments, looked at dollars and expenditures of prior years, as well as started to look at a future capital improvement plan that we need for every single department when it comes down to the small items or computers, all the way up to the largest piece of equipment that operates some of our treatment facilities.
Councilmember Kivel.
This is exactly what we need to end up doing. We've been kind of mired in trying to figure out how we solve the entire package, and that's just, nobody can do that. The state can't do that. We can't do that. You do it in methodic steps, and this gets us moving in the right direction to get the long-term selves that we're looking for. So I appreciate all the help you guys have provided for this.
I'll say something more.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
I reiterate the other council people on this. I agree with them. I just hope that we can hit a home run for the city of South Lyon this time around with this budget. Speaking to the average people out there, if you've gone through this book and read it, some of it's absolutely baffling to you. Okay, what are they talking about? What is this, you know? And some of it isn't necessarily written in stone that it's got to happen. Just because we put X amount of dollars towards a certain line item doesn't mean it's got to happen. If we can find a different way to do something and save $20,000 or $30,000, then that's the administration's option to do so. An example being the demolition of 318 Lake Street, okay, from what's budgeted in there. If we can come up with a solution for something else, by all means, but at least we budgeted for it. In case things do go in a harder way, we've got it planned for, and we don't need to come back and say, we need a budget amendment, we blew it, we got to have more money. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get across to the general public. It's not easily understood just by first glance. You got to really study it. And I think we've certainly gotten a better foothold and a direction this time around than we've had in the past years. And I mean years. We've been floundering on this. And I think we've got it. That's one of the main reasons we hired you, okay? And because you're good, okay? And we know we're not. Okay, and I'm glad that we've got it where we've got it, and I'm certainly going to vote for it. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate those comments, and to use your analogy, you know, we may not hit a lot of home runs. We're going to hit a lot of singles and some doubles. You know, the main focus here is that we want to be a winning team, and we have a salary cap, so we have to deal with that. So, if you're using your baseball analogy.
Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the millage rate resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Richards, to approve the millage rate resolution. This
I'd
is
like to read in the millage rates, though,
Yeah,
before
certainly.
we go forward. Are you okay with
I'll
it?
do that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'll do it.
You're going to do it, Steve? Okay.
Resolved that the city clerk certify to the city assessor for spreading on the assessment roll of the city of South Lyon for the year 2019 to 2020 the following amounts based on taxable value of $377,216,665. Number one, at the rate of 11.4938 mils per $1,000 of valuation for general fund operation. Number two, at the rate of 3.0000 mils per $1,000 of valuation for wastewater general obligation bonds for wastewater treatment from 2002. And number three, at the rate of 1.000 mils per $1,000 of valuation for the Capital Improvement Fund. Resolved further that due to the May 2nd, 1984 election, whereby the library became a freestanding and district library for all purposes, including the levy of 1.4369, and the overall levy for the city will be 16.9307 mils, of which 15.4938 mils will be used for city operation and debt. Resolved further that after spreading on the assessment roll the amounts as required to be raised by the general ad valorem tax, the assessor certify and deliver the same to the city treasurer, and the city clerk be authorized to attach her warrant thereto, directing and requiring the city treasurer to collect the same as provided by the city charter. Resolved further that all installments reported to the city treasurer as delinquent on special assessments and other charges, together with interest due thereon, as provided in Section 7.17 of the city charter, unpaid charges for water consumption and water tap installation, as provided in Chapter 24 of the South Lyon City Code, be assessed against the properties benefited and included in the 2019 tax roll. Resolved further that the millage for the entire fiscal year 2019 to 2020 budget not to exceed 15.4938 mils. I make the motion to approve the 2019-2020 millage resolution and budget proposal. We do them both?
No,
Or
we
do them
just
separately?
one at
Just
a
the
time.
millage rate resolution then.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Richards. Is there any further discussion? At this time, we will then do a roll call vote. Lisa?
Yes.
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 No.
No.
Yes. So motion passes. Tim, will we move on now to the consider approval? Okay.
I was just going to make a motion for a call for the order of the day, which means that we continue with item 2 of the old business.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kennedy.
I'll make the motion to approve the annual budget resolution. The budget resolution reads as follows. Whereas in May 2019, the city manager submitted to City Council a proposed budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And whereas the City Council has received the proposed budget contained herein and has discussed and reviewed the same. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council hereby adopts the 2019-2020 fiscal budget as shown in the budget document on the summary page and detailed on the following pages, with expenditures in the total amount of $6,204,846. Be it further resolved that the City Council hereby adopts the following proposed budget or estimates for the following operations as set forth below. Do we want to read the account numbers here on this, Lisa? Don't need that? The final statement is that be it further resolved that the city manager is authorized to advertise for bids or authorize at the appropriate time for contractual services, commodity purchases, and/or capital expenditures throughout the fiscal year in accordance with the enclosed budget document and all applicable city ordinance policies or procedures in effect. Be it further resolved that pursuant to the Uniform Budgeting and Account Act, Section 19(2), city manager may make transfers within a fund and activity if the amount to be transferred does not exceed 10% of $25,000, whichever is greater of the appropriation item for which the transfer is to be made, with prior notification to the City Council. I make the motion.
I'll support.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Kibble, to approve the annual budget resolution. Lisa will do a roll call vote.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 No.
How about Dan?
Yes. Motion passes. We'll move on to new business this evening. Resolution authorizing the request for reimbursement from Oakland County West Nile Virus Fund.
Oakland County received our West Nile virus project for the year on April 8, 2019. We provide insect repellent for residents and apply mosquito larvicide to city catch basins. Attached information was a plan to Oakland County regarding the city's program, the letter for reimbursement, quotes for repellent briquettes, and the resolution. Possible course of action: approve resolution or do not approve a resolution. It is my recommendation to approve the resolution to receive the funds from Oakland County.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Parisian, go ahead.
Thank you. We do this every year. I would be happy to make the motion to approve this. With that being said, I make the motion to approve the resolution for reimbursement from the Oakland County West Nile Virus Fund in the amount of $1,546.18.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Parisian, supported by Councilmember Walton, to approve the resolution for reimbursement from the Oakland County West Nile Virus Fund in the amount of $1,546.18. Is there any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. New business number 2, the purchase of an X-Mark zero-turn LZX 801 GK 6600 mower.
This year, the city in 2018-19 budget, money has been budgeted for the X-Mark Zero lawn turn mower. The current unit is too heavy and creates damage to turf, so the city decided to purchase a new item, and that was included within the 2018-19 budget. Included, we have 2 quotes, one from Weingarts and one from Bullion Sales Outdoor Power Equipment. One particular third supplier, D&G Equipment Company, did not respond to the bid or other questions regarding the bid. The bids came in at $13,397. The quote from Weingartens and the photo of equipment and specifications outlined in the bid request is attached. The decision is to move forward with the purchase in the 2018-19 budget. Possible course of action to approve or not approve the purchase of the X-Mark zero-turn mower from Weingarts for the price of $13,397, and my recommendation is to make that purchase. I want to advise council that $13,000 was originally approved within the budget. The request is for $13,397, but all funds within the equipment fund has not been expended, so we'll be able to transfer the additional $400 from that same account to make this purchase.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Parisian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paul, I have a quick question for you in regards to the current unit. Is that still usable? Are we going to use it for something else?
Yes,
or?
it is. We will be transferring that unit to the Water and Sewer Department.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I got a question.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Paul, okay, not being an expert on Power 360 lawnmowers, I know I'm familiar with the names of the sales representatives. What's the brand of the mower we're buying? Is it I see the picture here. Is it a Craftsman or a?
X-Mark.
It's X-Mark.
It's X. That doesn't tell me anything.
That's the
X-Mark.
brand.
Yeah, that is.
That's like Ford, Toro, you know.
That's
It
the
is.
manufacturer.
X-Mark
Okay,
is-
then I didn't recognize. Like Toro or something like that is a brand name that John Deere Cub, Cadet Cub or whatever. Those are brand names I recognize. X Mark Zero, I did not understand that. That's the actual name of the machine. Okay, I think it's important we mention that, but I guess it's the rest of you on top of me on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to make a general comment, Paul, and this is regarding expenditures that come out with respect to the budget. It's always useful from a consumer standpoint, and I consider myself, when I look at the budget, a consumer as I look at it and use it. If when you have the explanation of the topic, you provide the item number, the line number in which this is coming from, because as I was going through the budget this weekend and taking another look at it, I was trying to figure out where extra money was coming from in order to make this purchase. So it would help if it's just to
We
try
can
to
do
help
that.
the consumer in terms of how you look at the budget and how I can go into these line items and take a look at this. So that would be my first comment on that. My second comment is that it's noted twice that the current unit is too heavy and creates damage to the turf. Well, that was a good purchase, I guess. I mean, I just think somebody ought to be thinking about these things when they're making these large purchases. To me, that's pretty obvious. You know that you've got X amount of inches of sod. If you know that you've got a vehicle that weighs X amount, there's a good chance that you may get some drag, some dirt dragged around. It may create ditches because your equipment's too heavy. I see it all the time with these landscapers that come through the subdivisions. Their equipment's too heavy for the area in which they are mowing. So I was just a little surprised to see that it took this long for somebody to realize that the unit was too heavy and it creates a damage to the turf.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion to approve the purchase of an Exmark LZX 801 GKA 60600 mower from Weingarts for the amount of $13,397.
Second?
I just wanted to make a comment.
Discussion, go ahead, Councilmember Kill.
I know this, we only have the two bids, and if you were to have gone around and looked at Exmark dealers in the area, we have the two that bid, the one that didn't, and then about 5 more Weingarts stores that used to be other people's stores, like commercial lawnmower in Livonia and places like that. So they're not going to bid against themselves if they already have the best price. We're doing a good job with bidding, so just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Just, Tim, in view of the information just pointed out by Councilmember Kivel, do we need to approve just getting the 2 bids as opposed to 3? Is that going to be required in addition to
I don't
approving
think
the
so.
purchase?
I think an attempt was made to get 3 bids,
It was.
so I don't think there's any requirement to get a third actual
Okay.
bid.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Parisian, to approve the purchase of an Exmark LZX 801 GKA 6600 mower from Weingarts for the amount of $13,397. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the budget this evening.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
Thank you. Paul, I wanted to ask, are there any amendments to the budget for this fiscal year?
Yes, Lori will be bringing those in the month of June.
Okay, you're going to be bringing in amendments to the budget in the month of June.
That is for the 2018-19 budget. That'll be the final adjustments that will be made.
Okay, and I just want to make sure in those amendments that you're going to be bringing in June, do those amendments include monies that have already been spent? So are you adjusting the budget to reflect money that has already been spent?
It possibly can if items have not been purchased as of the time that they were originally allocated. So let's say we had $20,000 in one particular budget. We were over in certain areas and not over, and let's say we only spent, we had 2 items for $10,000 and one came in at $10,200. That left us with $9,800. If we still feel that we're going to go over that $20,000 figure, we will have to bring a budget amendment. Or if we decided or declined to actually purchase an item, we may not be bringing that item. So technically, there may be some of those issues, but that we have not gone over when we actually made those original purchases.
Because really, when I started studying the budget several years ago, that was one of the problems that council was having, is council could not keep up with what was going on with that budget because budget amendments weren't coming out until end of the fiscal year, maybe 6 or 7 months in. And I believe that we have a resolution or a motion that was passed a year ago or 2 years ago that required the administration to provide budget amendments on a quarterly basis.
And we have done that 3 times already this year. I believe I was here for 2 of them, and this will be the final one of the year.
And this will be the final one.
That's correct.
Because I personally can't approve an amendment to the budget if money has already been spent without council's approval.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because, well, that's a major problem. So that is going to be an issue for me on the amendments. And what I'm also looking for on the amendment, and maybe it will be addressed, so I'll bring it up now, is the vacation pay for Lloyd Collins was in the budget for $30,000. That's where I got that number from, $30,000. When you look at the budget, you look at the vacation buyout, it says $30,000. That's where I got that number because I relied on the numbers in the budget. When I went back and inquired, did a further inquiry into that vacation buyout, that number was different. It's about 40,000, 45,000. So my question is where did the money come from to make that final payment of close to $45,000 when the budget that is now presently in place only showed a 30,000 draw?
Well, you did in fact approve a particular budget, but you are approving budgets based upon the funds, and the manager or staff at that particular time is allowed to make transfers within those particular accounts, as was specified within the resolution that you actually adopted this evening. There certainly could be higher amounts within line items and lower amounts within line items, just as long as those specific accounts or those actually funds you do not exceed. If you are exceeding in those particular funds, you would definitely have to come before City Council for a budget amendment. Specific purchases, I'm not sure how Council has always handled that, but I will check on the issue regarding Lloyd's payout to find out what the dollar amount was, and if it in fact was over for that line item or within that particular account.
Well, we know what the dollar amount was.
Okay, I don't have that in front of you right here.
I know
but
you don't. It was roughly 45,000. But the point is that the payout was larger than the amount in the budget. So my question was, where did the money come from to make up that difference? That's a budget issue.
If he was paid, in fact, more than what was originally budgeted, it would have came from that particular fund, which came through the general fund, but it was the police department account and the specific items for wages of employees.
Did it come out of overtime, or I can talk about that later. So, but anyway, so that's what I'm looking for on these amendments, and that's why I'm asking. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
Anyone else with anything for the budget tonight? Great. Move on to the manager's report. Paul?
I just want to update council on a couple items. One, community development block grant funds. I received a call last week from Oakland County Community and Home Improvement that they informed us that we received a 22% reduction in our CDBG funding allocation for the upcoming year. We'll be reducing proportionally the amount that we were allocating to particular accounts. If council does not want to reduce in that particular fashion, let me know. That was just an immediate response that I had to give regarding the reduction because they wanted to know our allocation. And I said proportionally reducing it would make it the fairest we possibly can because we only allocated for two items. One is Haven as well as the senior activity services. The ordinance officer, we're getting ready to hire this individual. We already had the physical done, waiting for them to fill out the final paperwork. We'll have that individual start within the next 2 weeks. Another item was Memorial Day. We had a really successful event this weekend. A lot of people came out, a lot of cars. It was finally a beautiful day. We did not have any rain. It was fantastic, the amount of people that came out on the streets. Great support by staff and the individuals putting that on. Great ceremony that we had at the cemetery as well as at the VFW. I want to thank everybody who had a part within that. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Friesen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paul, I have two things for you. The first one is in regards to the group of students that were here tonight, but also the individuals who spoke in regards to gun violence. One of them in particular had requested an ordinance. Is there a possibility we can look into that, the feasibility of
Councilmember
implementing
Friesen,
that?
sorry, let me interject
Sure,
here. Tim, would you please shed some light on that issue before we go any further on discussing it?
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into real depth on it, but if you look into the firearm gun laws in Michigan, it's a confusing area of law. In addition to just the legal part, there's also the emotional part, the Second Amendment, the people's attachment to being able to do that. There's also the new opinion from 2018 regarding the school districts. So that being said, we can certainly look into it. I'm not educated enough as I sit here to know, but I generally my understanding is that local communities are prohibited from regulating firearms on a local basis. That being said, the new opinion warrants another look at it, and I can provide information through the city manager on that particular issue.
Thank you, Tim. And Councilmember Friesen, excuse me, I didn't mean to
No,
just
that's
cut you off.
okay.
I just wanted,
I
knew
appreciate
Tim
it, so-
had something to say about it.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that to address our constituents' concerns, I think we should at least give the opinion another look, just to refresh. And then could you just send something out to council? Hey, this is what the opinion says. This is where we're at with it. Whether we can or cannot do it, it doesn't. I think just being able to have that insight would be helpful, just a step in that direction.
I'll work with the city manager to figure out the scope of the assignment, how long, and reporting probably through the city manager, and then he can figure out
Excellent.
how to distribute it to you.
Thank you. That's a step. My second question would be, I received some information that there was some damage that was done to Volunteer Park. Is there anyone who could speak to that and how bad the damage was? Is it fixable?
My understanding, there was damage to the park. It had to do with somebody driving of grass and things like that. It has happened within the past. Sometimes it's more minor. Sometimes they drive in the ditches. Sometimes it's, unbeknownst who does it. Sometimes cars get off of the road, whether it's purposeful or not. But it is repairable, and it wasn't something that was a big issue. But yes, it was damaged grass by vehicles.
Okay, but it wasn't any equipment that was damaged?
No.
The soccer nets, things like that? Okay.
I was unaware of there anything in the soccer nets. I just heard it was damage to lawn. So.
Follow-up question. Will the repairs be done in time for, because it's soccer season, it's lacrosse season. Are we going to have the fields
Yes,
done
we
in
will
time
have
for that?
repairs done, to extent so they can still use the fields on a
Okay.
regular basis. And unfortunately, the fields have been extremely wet, games canceled, practices canceled, a lot of repairs on the particular fields and things like that have been able to take place. Not only talking about heavy equipment, perhaps the lawnmowers, but other things on there to do some of those things too.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilmember Crusoe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two issues. The first one is regarding Paul Baker Park, and I just wanted to thank you and thank DPW for their incredible dedication in trying to get Paul Baker Park somewhat in good condition for Memorial Weekend. And just wanted to let you know that persons in the downtown area have approached me over the years, and I definitely heard it this year, which is why I went down to sort of help a little bit. Paul Baker Park, I just wanted to let you know, is pretty important to the downtown residents. Unlike the subdivisions that have common areas where their kids can play and they have playground equipment, the downtown has McCaddy Park and they have Paul Baker Park. So to them, those two parks are real important to the recreation of their family and their children. Additionally, the nursing home across the street uses it. They'll come across and sit there. So a priority in terms of keeping that park up, I think, is clearly being expressed to me. And so I wanted to pass that on to you. I don't have the authority to go to Ron and and say, hey, Ron, can you do this or can you do that? That has to come, from you. You're the boss. And so I'm just letting you know that people that are in that downtown area expressed a tremendous thank you and appreciation for getting in. They noticed that the park had not been maintained for a couple years. And they were very, very, very appreciative of the effort that was made by the city to get that in some semblance for Memorial Weekend. So just want to pass that along. Also, I'd like to stop in to talk to you this week about some issues that appear to be arising with the building department. I'm hearing a lot from contractors. Like to talk to you about that. And I think what it is the contract season is very busy. There's a lot going on. And I'm not sure what I'm hearing is just contractor frustration or whether there is a real logistics problem in making South Lyon a priority so that when these contractors call and say, I need an inspection, and someone says, I will be there this afternoon at 4 o'clock, and that inspector doesn't show up until 3 days later and says, oh, well, I got tied up in another city, we need to be made the priority for our contractors because our contractors are making a huge commitment to improving our city, our area. I heard another complaint today, last week. It was on Friday, actually, about permits that they have been waiting to get picked up. So maybe between me coming in and you and I speaking, maybe you could find out how long are these permits sitting over there? How long are some of these contractors waiting for an inspection? And if they're waiting, more than a day or so, then maybe somebody needs to go in and restructure or work things out so that the workflow is a lot more friendly to the contractors that are working here in the city. I've heard from 5 contractors. 5 contractors. They each had a different story, a different problem. but it was enough to say, maybe we should take a look at it. I don't know, so.
Absolutely.
But thank you for your time, and thank you for the effort that you'll put in on this, resolving this issue. Thank you.
Anyone have anything else for the manager's report? Councilmember Parisian, I've been out to Volunteer Park and I saw where the damage is, and it's not really making an impact on any of the playing fields. It's near the end of the parking lot by the basketball court over there. There may be some damage to the volleyball court over there, but it's obviously you don't want to see any of that happen. But I don't believe it's going to have any impact on the playing surfaces.
Soccer players.
Right. So,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah, Councilmember Walton, go ahead.
Thank you. I do want to just comment real quick as well on Paul Baker Park, because I did hear some comments as well as how nice it looked as the parade went through there. And, you know, we did have a great parade. I've heard a lot about that. But I did hear a lot of comments on Paul Baker Park, so I wanted to say thank you as well for making that a priority.
Well, I'll convey that to the staff. I know they've been working hard. There's still other improvements that need to be made there, the cleaning of the bricks, some removal of trees, and things like that. They did a great job this past fall and in the winter with the lights and other things at that particular park. We'll continue to make that park look good.
Good, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. If anyone would like to come up and speak, please state your name and address. All right, we'll close public comment. At this time, we will move on to council comments this evening. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead and get us started.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To start off tonight, I just want to congratulate the Lake Street Cruise in for a great kickoff to the 2019 season. The weather was perfect. The attendance was outstanding, as were the cars. So just remember, it's every fourth Wednesday of the month at 6:30. So come on down, check out the cars, get something to eat, and basically enjoy a great event. And speaking of events, I'd like to remind everyone that the Salem South Lyon District Library will be hosting a ribbon cutting event on Sunday, June 2nd at 1 o'clock p.m. for the new children's expansion. The event will run from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock and will include fun-filled activities for the entire family. So bring the entire family and help Salem South Lyon District Library celebrate another milestone. In addition to celebrating the opening of the children's expansion, the event will also celebrate the 80th anniversary of the South Lyon Library that was originally established in March 1939 in one room of a vacant store, at which time it contained 1,600 books. Over the years, it has continued to grow, and it's moved from location to location until it's arrived at its present location with the new expansion back in 1998, and it currently houses over 85,000 items. So congratulations to the Salem South Lyon District Library, not only on their growth and expansion, but also on their continued relevance and service to the residents of our community. And finally, I just want to thank everyone who helped organize and participated in the Memorial Day Parade. I particularly want to recognize the efforts of Dana Johnston and Andrea Phillips and the Phillips Funeral Home for their time and effort in organizing the event and ensuring that the true meaning of the holiday wasn't lost among the barbecues and preparing for summer. We must always remember those who gave so much so the rest of us can enjoy the freedoms that we do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Richards, go you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to open up with stating the way, in the minutes that we quoted to start the meeting off of the comments from the previous meeting on May 13th. I look at it this way. I wasn't quoted exactly right, but so what? Okay? The main thing is that we move on forward in a positive light. Okay? Anybody that was here knew what I said and what the subject matter was. And it's important to not look down and look back, move forward. Anyway, moving on to items of positive nature, I want to let everybody know, number one, Larry and Dan Noble, being Larry Ledbetter, our champion, put up the flags on the light poles around town over this past weekend. I think it was last Wednesday. I believe it's 70 plus, 74, something like that, light poles. And they did it on their own with carrying the step ladder around and putting up every flag. Quite an achievement. These are guys my age, you know what I'm saying? Okay. I'd like to special recognition to the tube mill. That's our factory here in the town on the west side, not far from City Hall here. They made a recap of their parking lot, almost all of it, and they put parking lines in. It looks really beautiful. I want to commend them for following through with this, and it's probably done on contract, of course. We all hope that this is a commitment of their constant commitment to the community, to remain in the community, and not just as a window dressing prior to putting the place up for sale again, as has happened in the past, prior to the next union contract in a year or so down the road. We want our tube mill to stay here, and putting a new parking lot in really dresses it up. Okay, again on the Memorial Day services, they're wonderful. I was there. I try to be there every year. It's truly a positive and binding force in our community for all the citizens. Okay, number 4. I'd like to speak about we just voted on the West Nile virus thing. That's wonderful, okay? I think we've had it every year. I want to make sure everybody knows that we've got a number of large ponds in our parkland. Not only volunteer, there's one in there, but you can't find it unless you know exactly where it is, with a lot of volume. Columbia, Andover, all of them have a large water volume in their park. In fact, we've got millions of gallons of stagnant and semi-stagnant water in this on city land in the community. There is some on private land. Colonial Acres has got the biggest lake in town, and the old pond trail, now known as Water's Edge, has another very large one. There is water flow in and through these ponds, but they're basically rather shallow. Anyway, moving on. Number 5. Forgot this the last time. I want to commend the Sayers School students for visiting our historic village on the 5th through the 7th, was it, of last week. The 2nd and 3rd graders took part in this plan, which we offer every year at the Historical Society. The Bartlett didn't respond this year, so they weren't present in any of our historical tours. Number 6, the British project on the swimming pool at down on Lafayette Street, past Laco's and the market and such, it seems to be on hold at this time. But I hope they continue on with their project. Lastly, I got a call tonight early before council from the Greater West Bloomfield Township Historical Society. And I had been reaching out to them to find about historic tours on Apple Island throughout the year. And they got back with me and let me know that the 7th of June there is going to be an international recognition of Apple Island in Oakland County here. That's up in Orchard Lake. Now, the significance of Apple Island, for those of you, I'm not giving a history lesson necessarily, but it has to do with Chief Pontiac. Before the American Revolution, when we were part of the British control, back after the French were deposed. Anyway, it'll be a very historic event, and I wish anybody that wants to just to contact the Greater West Bloomfield Township Historical Society.org, and it'll all be explained to you. And it's free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Parisian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will keep this short. In regards to petitions that are out for running for a candidacy, I would encourage anybody who is 18 years of age or older that lives within the city and you have an interest in local government to run for council or, no offense to the mayor, you're doing a great job, or mayor. Competition's always fun. So if you are interested in local government, take a stab at it, campaign, do what you think is right. If you're not necessarily interested in running and you just want to kind of dabble and see what local government's all about, I would recommend that you volunteer for one of our many committees or commissions. We can always use volunteers. And that's actually a really good way to just get your feet wet and understand the local cogs that are within local government, how it works and who the key players are and who the individuals are that run each department. So that's a good way to get started. But again, if you are interested in running for council, pick up your petition here at City Hall. You have until July 23rd to turn it in at 4 o'clock p.m. Thank you, and thanks for listening.
Thank you. Councilmember Walton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to also keep it short. I just want to congratulate Donahue Farms in their bid for the flowers, and Duke is going to be a great trainer for our city workers. Also, the students' demand action group that was here, that's phenomenal. It's just unbelievable that you are taking this stand, you're bringing it in front of council, and I commend you, and I cannot wait to hear what else you've got going on, and I look forward to working with you. And then I also want to remind everyone that the South Lyon Rec is out there. They're filling up their summer programs. Let's keep ourselves busy. Let's keep ourselves out of trouble. Let's have a good time. So check out South Lyon Rec. And that's it. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you, Councilmember Walton. Councilmember Kivel?
I wanted to start with, I was a little bit disturbed and disappointed when there was some no votes that were made as far as approving our budget. I mean, there's plenty of time, first off, without any explanation. I just think that that's bizarre. And the comments that are typically thrown at our meetings are more often than not things that you can get a concise and in-depth understanding of an answer if something were you just pick up a phone and call the city manager rather than have these conversations, essentially just spending an awful lot of council time just regurgitating something that should have been taken care of in a private manner. Once you got your answer, if you wanted to enlighten us with it, I think that would end up being a better course of action. We did have some really wonderful events this weekend between the car show, which we lucked out, had great weather for, very well attended, some new rides out there. That was really great news. And yesterday's benefit of having perfect weather from morning till night yesterday, that was terrific. The parade goes right by my house. I'm always delighted to see all the people that are involved in that. And my wife and I had, after all the hubbub had taken place, and in the afternoon we had family over, and so in the afternoon we went for a bike ride, rode over to the cemetery. We have a real jewel of a cemetery. They take very good care of that place. And when we actually walked essentially the entire footprint of the cemetery. When you see the history and essentially understand these were the founders of this area, their families are buried in that cemetery. It's just really quite an examination of what's taken place in this area. So I was tickled to death. And as I said, just to see the condition of that area, everything is very well groomed, very organized, and it's some. I think the oldest grave that I had seen was probably 1810, but I wouldn't be surprised if I had overlooked some that were even older than that. So one thing that I did want to make connection to was every year the parade, as I said, goes right by my house, and when we were walking, my wife and I were walking through the cemetery, we ended up stopping by former Councilman Harvey Waddell's tombstone. Harvey was a vet and was always in the parade, and he's been missed, and it was just happenstantial that he died a year and 1 day prior to yesterday's parade, which really hit home. I don't know. I mean, it was really seemed much more recent. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kivel. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to address in fact, this is good that we have high school students here tonight. I would first like to address the council member's criticism about his disappointment on certain individuals that voted no on the budget. I think what is important here is that you are seeing an intolerance of certain council members with respect to diversity, with respect to different opinions. If everybody had the same opinion, we don't need 7 people up here. We only need 1 person. So our democracy speaks to diversity. Our democracy speaks to people having different opinions without being penalized, without being embarrassed or harassed. That's the purpose of a democracy, to be able to express your point of view, do your research, do your study. That is democracy, having a different opinion from somebody else. And although the council member thinks it's bizarre that there were no reasons given, I think it's bizarre that he didn't read the minutes from the last meeting. Because the minutes from the last meeting clearly stated exactly what my concerns were about the budget. So we need to be tolerant of other people's opinions rather than going after them because we didn't think like them. If that's the case, then look at the group that was here tonight. The action that the young adults have. They have a right to come up and speak. They have an opinion, and I'm sure there's other people that have a different opinion than they do. But they don't need to come to the microphone, express their opinion on what they want to do, how they want to express themselves, and then have somebody go after them because we don't agree with their particular position. So as you're in school, please be tolerant of other people's opinions and realize that this is the democracy that you live in. Next, I would like to thank Steve Kennedy and Rose Walton for their attendance last Friday as we met with a representative from Jim Runstead's office. He is our newly elected state representative. We had an opportunity to discuss many issues, but the 3 of us seemed to be focused on 3 municipality issues, and that was state revenue funding, funds for road improvement, and financial assistance for unfunded pension liabilities. So I would like to thank my 2 council members for attending that forum. There will be more to come every month, and this is a great opportunity for individuals who hold elected office to have some sort of networking opportunities so that we can take back to our elected officials those issues that are affecting our communities. Next, what a success the Lake Street Cruise-In was last Wednesday. The sidewalks were packed and the music was great. This week, I would like to thank the following sponsors for the 2019 Lake Street Cruise-In. That is Champion Auto Group out of Brighton and Howell, Detroit Hot Rod Sport and Custom out of Plymouth, Detroit Popcorn Company out of Redford, DTN Management out of Lansing, Ford Tool and Machine out of Wixom. South Lyon is so blessed to have communities that want to sponsor events in our town, whether it's the Pumpkin Fest or the Farmers Market or any other event that we have. These sponsors make these events possible, and they bring people to our downtown. So I want to thank all the sponsors who are enriching our community through some of these great, great events. Next, the Lyon Township Kite Festival is this weekend, along with the opening of the Salem South Lyon Youth Edition. The Kite Festival is a great event for families. I saw many, many Lyon Township residents at the Lake Street Cruise-In, and I am sure many South Lyon residents, kite flyers, will be at Atkinson Park this weekend testing their flying skills. Next, I would like to thank those employees of DPW who helped with cleaning up Paul Baker Park so that it would look presentable for Memorial Day. Thank you, gentlemen, and sometimes we don't thank you enough, given that you work in sub-zero weather outside, you work in the rain like you did last week, but you worked really, really hard to get that park, to get that, to get that taken care of. Also, I would like to also say, also request this is, where is this on this? Well, I think I'm all done. I think I'm all done. All right, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Kurtzwell. Chief Sovic, did you have anything tonight?
One thing is the Witch's Hat Brewery on June 7th from noon to 10 p.m. is hosting a disc golf social event. They're also planning one for July 5th, but they didn't get the paperwork in time to see you guys for this meeting. But June 7th from noon to 10 p.m. Witch's Hat Brewery.
Thank you. I have a handful of things. First of all, I'd like to start with the Memorial Day Parade in Dana Johnston and the VFW, the American Legion, and Phillips Funeral Home. In an era where we're seeing these events dwindle away, anyone that was there obviously knows that this is a blue-collar and patriotic town, but it was really nice to be able to see the city come out and have a great day and a great ceremony. And so Dana Johnston, 41 years running that parade. So you want to talk about an advocate for the city of South Lyon, you start with Dana Johnston for sure. But thank you to everyone that came out. It was a great day. Remind everyone that Flag Day this weekend in Salem Township. I know we got a lot going on all over the place, but didn't want to forget about our friends out in Salem Township. Congratulations to the South Lyon girls soccer team and the South Lyon softball team. They are LVC regular season champs, and that's a big deal. So congratulations to those guys and best of luck in their postseasons. So with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn this evening.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.